Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Japan Times Sustainability Roundtable. I have a confession to make. Um, in my because I'm on the other side of middle age now, and during my life, I had never had the opportunity to meet anyone from Guatemala, and I didn't actually think that I would ever meet someone from Guatemala in Japan. But the other day, I was incredibly blessed to meet our guest today, who is an absolutely amazing person that has an almost equally amazing journey and story. So I am very pleased today to have the opportunity to talk with Carlos Melen, who is the founder and CEO of Good Coffee Farms. Carlos, welcome.
Hi, Ross. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure, pleasure. And I think this is going to be a really interesting and inspiring discussion today. So thank you.
Thank you. I hope so.
So tell us a little bit about how a guy from Guatemala ends up in Japan doing coffee.
Well, um, Guatemala. Yes, this is very interesting because since I was a kid, I always wanted to go out and I wanted to explore the world. I always had it in me to try to find out about new things or discover new things. And well, I had a chance in life that I to come to Japan for traveling at the beginning for just a couple of months, but then I ended up staying here for over 20 years by now.
Wow, a couple of months becomes 20 years.
Yes, that's quite long. Yes. Well, I wanted to go out for different reasons. One of them was I wanted to explore a little bit more. But the other one is that also, well, my country was going through some difficulties back then, and my family was struggling through poverty. So I had that experience in my life as well. So I also wanted to find to get a chance in life to do more. And so when that chance came to my life, I just thought I gotta take it, and then that's how I decided to make it all, to this side of the world.
Great, great. Um, so that's the journey from Guatemala to Japan. Can you fill us in a little bit about how that journey to Japan ended up becoming an absolutely fascinating journey into the world of coffee?
Oh yeah, well, I can talk hours and hours about this because I have so many stories. But let me tell you first that when I got here, I couldn't speak English, I couldn't speak Japanese.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
it was this 18 years old boy from Guatemala, just after graduating high school, came here and I couldn't communicate with people. A completely different world to what I saw in Guatemala, and the first time to be so far away from home too. So there were
Mm,
so many things, but it was so impactful, I guess, that it really changed my life in so many ways. Uh, I gotta say that one of the things that took my attention was to see how safe Japan is as a country. It's incredible. I heard stories about that of in my country about a long time ago, but nothing that I experienced myself. But in Japan, everything is so safe and so clean, and the way that people behave and how do they talk so respectful to each other, and the working manners and so many things that I felt that was so interesting, and knowing also their background, the storybooks that I read about what Japan went through.
yes.
How is it possible that this country overcame all of that so fast and became such a powerful nation? That caught my attention. That's the part that made me stay. Now, the part that made me get into coffee is that whenever I told people that I was from Guatemala, that I'm from Guatemala, the few that said, hey, that they know, they said, hey, coffee, that's that's a coffee country. Some people even say, hey, wait a minute, so there's a country with that name. I thought it was the name of the coffee.
People knew the coffee, but not the country.
Yes, yes. Yes, I heard that so many times. that eventually I got into coffee, especially after seeing when I gave people coffee as a gift, the reaction was like, wow, this is coming from a real Guatemalan guy.
Right.
This must be the real deal. I could see that. And little by little, I got into start loving the coffee from Guatemala, because I gotta say this too. Back then, we didn't have all the social media that we have now, or
Of
the
course.
access to
Yes.
our phones.
True.
So um, I didn't know how famous was Guatemalan coffee back then, and we didn't have YouTube and etc. It was from the experience of interaction with people that I learned about it. So that's what got myself in thinking, hey, this is something very interesting, and I started loving coffee. Now,
So before that time, you really had no great attraction or connection with coffee whatsoever. And perhaps maybe even being Guatemalan, you didn't even think that coffee was a special thing about Guatemala.
exactly, that was
Yeah.
just a normal thing.
Mm.
Yes. Um, so I got a little bit interest in the coffee at that point. However, what made me get into the business later,
Mm.
it's another experience that I had while being here in Japan. And it's that being from a country that is not well known, um, has, well, sometimes good things, but at that moment in my life, at that age, most of the things were kind of negative for me.
Right.
Coming from a place that well, was having some difficulties, and then being in a place that people didn't know about the country. Sometimes when I try to rent an apartment, even when they say they accept foreigners, just by me saying the name of my country, they just say, I'm sorry, but no. The same thing happened for when I wanted to get a job.
Mm.
The interview was going well until I said, so I'm from Guatemala. And they were like,
Wow.
where is it? Yeah. So then I um, thought that, I need to do something about it.
Mm.
So that's when I start thinking I need to start my own business here in Japan. And when I say my own business here in Japan, is because in Guatemala I started one when I was about 14 years old, selling t-shirts. So
Yes.
yes, I start selling t-shirts to my friends, and I end selling by hundreds to some shops. So I had that in me. And then I just thought, hey, I need to bring that back in me and start doing something here in Japan.
Yeah. Wow. That's a young entrepreneur. Amazing.
Yeah, and well, of course, first of all, I had to learn to speak Japanese, and I learned to speak English here too, and that helped a lot. Um, so I didn't like the situation that being from Guatemala was kind of negative thing, and until maybe it's connected with experience and also the age. With the age, you grow as a person, so you start to understand so many things. Then I remember the saying that the famous one that is, if life gives you lemons, make lemonade.
Lemonade.
Lemonade, say lemonade. Yes, lemonade. Um, then I told that to myself, and I was like, so what is my lemon in my life? Well, being
Mm.
from Guatemala. So, but what Guatemala has to offer? Coffee. Then that's it. Coffee is my lemon. So then I thought I'm gonna make the best lemonade with that.
Lemonade.
Yes. Uh, so that's how I started in coffee. And well, I developed a coffee brand. It was a gift box. It was in a beautiful package, a luxury coffee
Mm.
brand called Darks Coffee back then.
Why
And
ducks? Why ducks?
great question. Well, darks within the S, because I thought about the plural of dark in my head, and because of the different colors that roast the coffee roast will have in it will be different kind of dark colors.
So as you roast the coffee, it gets darker and darker. Is that the? So there's very
Exactly.
wow, Stage of the Darkness. Interesting.
Yes, exactly. So that was the name of the brand. And it started going well. I even made it to the newspapers back in Guatemala as being the kind of the first luxury coffee brand, especially outside of Guatemala. I was in Japan, and here in Japan, many Japanese start asking me very detailed questions, such
Mm,
as how about the people that work picking the coffee cherries from
mm,
the farms? How much do they get
mm.
paid? Do you use chemicals for the production, etc.? So many little detailed questions. And I knew some answers, but I didn't have all the answers for the coffee that I was using. So I started contacting my providers. And I'm not happy enough with the answer that I got from them. I decided to just start digging more into calling the producers. And unfortunately, I found out that there were more problems than what I knew in the traceability, and that triggered another part of me of feeling uncomfortable with what was going on, and I didn't want to sell the coffee anymore, so I need to take some actions. Then I decided to go to Guatemala, and when I saw the reality, and I found that many of these producers live under poverty, that made me feel really bad. And when I dig even more, then I found out that actually worldwide, the most of the coffee production is being done by smallholder farmers. And in there's a big number of people living under poverty in the world. So
That, that's a really interesting point. So when you say the most of the coffee production is done by small scale farmers or family farmers, I would have thought that it was actually, I mean, the amount of coffee that gets consumed in the world every day, I imagine is huge. And my impression would have been, or my guess would have been, that it was actually large scale production. But what you're saying is the majority is actually small scale.
when you see it globally, yes, it is. Now, the business side is being handled by large farmers or large corporations. So that's how we get confused when we see the names of the companies behind it, but we don't know the exact source of the coffee. So that's what happens in not
Interesting.
only
Yeah.
Guatemala, but in many countries, which is not that is a bad thing. It
Mm,
becomes bad when there's inequality in
mm.
the money, the distribution of the money, right? That's what makes a problem. So when I saw that, and I saw that the normal way that coffee is being processed uh, use a lot of large equipment,
Mm.
industrial equipment, and a lot of water is used in the production of coffee. I saw those things that there was a big problem. So I identified this in the coffee industry. There is a problem for traceability, a problem for the producers living under poverty, and a problem with the environment because of the equipment that we were using. And so there is a need in the market, and there is as well an opportunity to develop something there. And there are people in the market also looking for coffees with that good traceability and some and good story, and that they could do something well. And this is the main reason why there are so many certifications in the world, right? To like fair trade and so many others. Um, Unfortunately, many of those certifications are not really fulfilling
Right.
the the what they should be doing, because it doesn't arrive to the smallholder or the small scale farmers.
Right. Carlos, so we can understand this a little bit better, can you just walk us through the um, the production of coffee? So you have the coffee. I guess we think of coffee, or I think of coffee as coffee beans because that's what we buy. But in fact, that is the end of the process, not the beginning of the process. But can you, so we can understand where this large machinery comes in and that, can you just talk us through the production process from the farm through to what we see on our table?
Sure, sure. Let me start by first telling you that coffee at the beginning is like a cherry.
A cherry.
Yes, and they're called coffee cherries actually, from small trees that they are about 2 to 3 meters high. And so what happens is, for example, I'm going to give you the picture of having a community with about 100 farmers. So the typical way that it works in this place is that there's going to be one guy with a big truck and going to collect those coffee cherries from 50 or 100 farmers. And so it gets mixed. So even for step number one, the coffee traceability is gone because we don't know where that coffee is coming from. And there's not only one truck, but there are so many trucks going to different communities, and they go to one big farm that has big facilities to process all that coffee. And all that coffee gets dumped in one single place. Then they use a lot of water instead of conveyors, belt conveyors, to move the coffee cherries into big machines. That those machines have inside is like a drum with a lot of blades that will remove the husk of the coffee cherries.
Right.
Because the part inside is the one that we know as green beans that later get roasted, and then we make the coffee drink that we all enjoy every day. And that model, although it's good for business, the business side of being able to produce big volumes, the problem is that the price, when it gets paid in the value chain, it will basically start from, let's say, Japan side of wants to buy a coffee that costs about let's say 1,000 yen per kilo. They will ask the company in the producing country for that coffee with that price, with that value. Then they will ask the intermediary, number one, for that, which is another person that will get involved, and they will offer to the other person like 800. And then the other one is the people that have the big machinery, they will get, for example, 600. And at the end, the farmer will get the 400 yen offered. The problem here is that the cost of that production could be 600 yen for the farmer. So from the beginning, the farmer is losing money. It sounds ridiculous, right?
So you have the coffee price at the consumer level, and what you're saying is it just gets more or less peeled away with all these middlemen.
Yep.
And then what gets left over what goes to the farmers. So the farmers actually don't have too much control over the pricing that they get, and the pricing that they eventually end up with is less than the cost of production. Well, that is definitely an equation for poverty.
That is a big problem, and we see this in many places. It's a big problem. So then how do they survive? How do they eat? Right. At least one person per family. It's in Central America, most likely to be going to United States to work illegally and send money to their family.
So they're subsidizing, basically.
Subsidizing, yes. And the other way is that they get loans, either way from banks or from the corporations that buy the coffee from them. So they will exchange sometimes not even just the money, but it could be fertilizers in exchange of coffee that usually is overpriced, and then the coffee is also the price that they end buying it for is lower than what the market is offering. So it's a never ending story of debt, like a credit card, and that happens way too much. So then I thought about that, and I was thinking, how can I work with them without all the intermediaries? Because I'm not going to be able to make the market pay a lot more money. So the only way that I can help the small farmers would be that if we don't need to pay any intermediary, any middleman, right? So that's when I came with the idea that, hey, I need to work with them. But in order to work with them, I need to become a farmer myself. So that's when I start changing everything in my life and decided to leave that luxury coffee brand and jump into the farm and start working together with them. And then I developed a model. The model is I welcome the farmers that they don't have the knowledge how to process the coffee. I teach them about the process and I give them equipment. But that equipment is also another of my ideas that I developed to install a bicycle to a machine instead of an engine.
Oh, people power, foot
Yeah,
power.
the bicycle powered pulper, the machine that will remove the husk from the coffee cherries. I thought to myself, I need a real solution to a real problem. I don't have money to buy a high-tech equipment or to build a high-tech equipment. And even if I did giving it to the people that barely read or write because they couldn't go to the school, um, it's not going to work. So low tech, but at the same time could be green tech. Then that's when I thought about instead of using engines, use the bicycle to move the machine. So we ended with a machine that doesn't require electricity, no water, no fuel. Everybody can use it. And I focus in developing the system inside to make it smoother and better. So improve from the machine number one to the one that we have now. We went from 300 kilograms per hour of coffee cherries to a little bit more than 1 ton.
Wow, in 1 hour, just on bicycle.
In 1 hour.
It's
Yes.
amazing.
You need to pedal a little bit at the beginning to build the
Yeah,
momentum, but then even if you stop, the machine keeps rotating for a few seconds. So
right.
all you do is just keep pedaling just to keep the speed steady. So it's not
But
hard at all.
I mean, that just blows me away because you have all this technology, all this equipment at scale that, uses a lot of water and electricity. And just by going to the source of the problem and looking at it, you've come up with a solution that is not only sustainable in that it doesn't use so much water and it doesn't use electricity, but also it makes the life of the farmers more sustainable because they're able to break that debt cycle. So it's sustainable both in terms of the inputs, but also in terms of the outcomes, which I think is just really, really absolutely amazing.
Exactly. So I I empower them with knowledge,
Yes, yeah,
with equipment, and then with the market, because at the end the result was that when we got the amazing coffee with full traceability, and because we did it with um, taking care of the quality from the step one, I always told them, if you start doing things well from the beginning, the result will be good. So we got a good result. So at the end, I just bought those coffees for Japan. And that's when, going from selling this dark coffee brand, I switched to sell green beans. And because I told myself, if I use only for my brand, the impact will be very small. I can use just a
right.
couple of tons per year. But if I start selling green beans, I'll do a lot more. So now I'm moving about 50 tons of green beans per year, helping helping a lot of farmers and distributing that green beans to all over Japan, from Hokkaido to Okinawa. And the interesting thing here is that I see myself more than being a producer and a guy who sells green beans. Now I'm building communities.
Yeah.
That is the part that I see that where I play the biggest role. Build a community in Guatemala that could understand that stop doing what they were doing for many years, for generations. Is important. but all of course, while important to have the goal and the strategy of how to get there. And my life gave me that chance to come up with those tools that I could then share with them. It got so successful back in Guatemala, then now we expanded to Colombia and even Brazil now.
That's amazing. And people, if they go to your website, you can actually see a picture of this bicycle. It's a little bit difficult to imagine, but when you actually see the picture, you think, wow, why didn't someone think of that before?
Oh, and why basically nobody else has tried to uh, copy what I'm doing, just replicate it. I invited many people to go and see what we're doing over there. And from people from the coffee industry, they told me, Carlos, this is very interesting. And let me tell you that the key here of what you're what you're doing is the bicycle is amazing, but it's you putting in their mindsets a new way to see things. What
Yes.
I believe that is the most valuable. And actually I agree, because I experienced with the farmers this production through all the years, and I can see that is their motivation in their minds what keeps this not just running but growing.
Mm, amazing. Carlos, so you had Darks and then you came to Good Coffee Farms. How did we get from Darks to Good Coffee Farms, which
Oh,
is on your hat, I noticed too?
yeah, that's an interesting story. Um, well, as soon as we start making coffee with the bicycles, many newspapers and even local TV came and started showing us on media. And many people started approaching, not only farmers that wanted to join us.
Mm.
I went, oh, by the way, I went from being just with one or two farmers to more than 200 farmers in just less than a month after after being
Through word of mouth between the farmers.
newspapers and word of mouth, yes, because of um, the results. They were the newspapers were showing there is a guy making coffee with bicycles. For a country that makes coffee, that was
Cool
ridiculous.
story.
And so many people laughed about it, and they called me crazy. Which yeah, well, for somebody like me, that I feel good when people call me crazy, because
Crazy.
yeah, I mean, yes, I am. I like to think out of the box and think how to do things in a different way. So some companies start contacting me as well, and then I got an offer from back then the coffee blockchain was a new topic in the industry, and IBM was behind this, and I got invited to go to Seattle through a friend that is made um he had a project for coffee blockchain because of the traceability problem. And while this meeting, I was being told by the guys in the meeting while drinking my coffee, hey, this coffee is good. And Carlos, the way that you process the coffee, the way that your project is handling is good farming. And they mentioned that about 3, 4 times, good coffee, good farming. And then I was already really desperately looking for a new name, because selling green beans under the name of Darks, not not a good way to go. And then it came to my mind, hey, good coffee, good farmers, good coffee farmers. If I find that domain, I'll buy it. And I just searched for it while having the meeting, and I bought the domain, and I just told everybody, hey guys, from now on, this is the name of my project, Good Coffee Farms. And the reason is simple, because good will represent this. It's the coffee that we produce is good for the farmers, good for the consumers, and good for the planet. This, if you want a good cup of coffee, needs to come from a good coffee farm. And that's where everything that I'm doing connects.
Yeah.
And ever
It's a
since,
brilliant
it's
name. It's
working.
a brilliant name. It's simple, but it's brilliant.
Thank you. And people seem to like it.
Good.
Yes, so that's how I came up with the name. And yes, and um again, more than me being a guy that is selling coffee, building that community and connecting with the farmers was one part of the of this, what I'm going to call now movement.
Mm.
And the other part was making community with the roasters.
Mm.
And that is what I started doing here in Japan. And I started in 2019. I brought 7 tons of coffee from Guatemala without having any connection in with roasters. But I really believed that was going to work. And I remember that in the container we put the 7 tons plus 1 bicycle, because I thought, hey, I need to bring this machine to Japan so they can see.
Mm.
And I joined to one big event that is held every year in Japan, where all the roasters go, and it was amazing. Not only roasters came to the booth, but also many farmers from different countries, from Africa, from Asia, from South America, and they saw the machine and they were like, "What is it? Wait a minute! So you make coffee with this?" Yeah, so I met so many friends that they've been buying our coffees every year since 2019, and they they are very happy to introduce me to many other roasters, and they recommend it a lot, saying, "Hey, this coffee is amazing. It's made with bicycles." There's no other better way to show that about sustainability when it comes to that for bicycles. Just seeing that the bicycle, you can immediately understand that it's not going to be used by a large corporation.
Yes.
Right? And there is a bicycle, no engines. And then I just teach them about, hey, and we don't use water as well. So, which for people in the coffee industry, they understand that that's huge.
Mm. It almost sounds like you often see these tourist spots where you can go and make your own pottery, or you go to Okinawa and you can make your own glass. It almost sounds like you could go to some of these farms and you could do the bicycle and make your own coffee and come back. But that's a slightly different sort of track from what you're doing at the moment.
Oh, not really, because now I'm going to give you a surprise. Actually, I saw that the interest in the people about the bicycle, and they were like, "So we can ride it." I was, "Please be my guest. Come to Guatemala." And then some people came to Guatemala, and I could see how they enjoy it. And then I came up with a new idea, which I called. This is where in Japanese we can play with words. So I use the name of this project is My Farm Contract. In Japanese, is My Farm Kayaku. Kayaku
Right.
is contract. And what does it mean? It's like people can kind of co-own the farm. So
Oh, wow.
to do co-farming in Guatemala with a member of Good Coffee Farms, we take care of all the traceability and all the, from step 1 until we deliver the coffee. But they decide on the recipe. They decide on the coffee variety. They can go to Guatemala and they can go and pick the cherries with the team and then ride a bicycle. And we already have more than 10 roasters in Japan working with us that way. And they make contracts for 5 to 10 years. So it's a win-win situation, because the farmer gets happy because now they have security that every year they will sell that coffee. And the roaster here in Japan, they can show that they have their own farm in a beautiful style that is a co-farming, so they don't need to buy the land from the farmer, which is very important.
Mm. Mm.
So
The
it's a
farmer
win.
retains the ownership. This lemons to lemonade is leading to win-win for both parties is a really great story. Um, So at the moment, you said you're bringing in about 50 tons of green beans.
Yes.
And does most of that go to wholesale, or do you also are you looking at doing retail and giving people the opportunity to buy it? Show us how you
Yeah,
distribute.
definitely. Uh, Most of it is going to wholesale.
Right.
Yes, to many roasters all over Japan, which, by the way, are the top roasters of Japan. That's another thing. Uh, the specialty coffee world has a they're is kind of picky about quality.
Mm.
So having the most famous roasters in Japan using our coffees tells everything about the quality of our coffees. So that's the one way you can enjoy our coffees is by visiting one of the roasters that is using our coffee. How do you find out about them? By also visiting our website, because we have a website in which we show some of the roasters that have our coffees. We need to update this constantly because now we're getting more and more roasters joining us. But we also have our online shop,
Mhm.
and the best part is that now we have a shop in Tokyo as well,
Wow.
very close to Tokyo Station.
Oh yes.
Walking
Wow,
distance.
that's
Yes,
cool.
it's about 200 meters away from Tokyo Station. And if you're curious about not just the flavor of the coffee, but also about the bicycle, you can visit the shop and ride the bicycle because
And ride a bicycle.
we have it there.
That's great. And so people can actually go to that 200 meters from Tokyo Station. So
Yes.
yeah.
Sakura Dori, do you know
Yes,
Sakura
yes,
Dori?
yes,
Yes,
yes.
it's in between Daimaru and Takashimaya.
Yeah.
The little street with a lot of trees is Sakura Dori. That's on the first floor.
Wow. Well, hopefully a lot of people watch it. I know it's not very far from where I work, so certainly I would plan to visit. But it'd be great if any of the viewers who happen to be in Tokyo would also be able to visit.
Oh yeah, and very simple. You can also just Google us in Google Map, and you will find us immediately. We're basically the first shop that would pop up when you search for good coffee in Tokyo Station. Good Coffee Farms. We have it's a cafe and bar, and you can enjoy so many coffees,
Yeah.
and even some amazing beer made. Oh, the coffee cherry, the husk of the coffee cherry, it's another problem in the coffee industry. So because about one coffee cherry, the husk represents about 40%,
Mm.
and it's becomes basically garbage, and it's not well managed. So there's a big problem there. So I came up with a byproduct made from that, and we have a super food made of that. We make also a tea, which is amazing. It contains about 10 times more polyphenols than blueberries, and blueberries are famous for that. So this is a superfood, right? And I love doing so many things. So I have chocolate made from that, and I had also a coffee cherry IPA for people who
Oh,
love
wow.
coffee. You can
Coffee
enjoy
cherry
that at the
IPA.
coffee as well.
I was going to ask you, do you make coffee lemonade? Because the the whole thing comes in lemonade and coffee, but you have
Even
an
better,
IPA. Great.
IPA.
Um, Carlos, you're
So
obvious.
anybody would love to have, please, Carl.
Yeah, please, everyone, do go and visit. Carlos, you seem to me to be an extremely positive person who has a very positive outlook on life. And this has been an amazing journey for you. In just a relatively short period of time, you've managed to build it to a business where you're now working with hundreds of farmers in the area, extending the geographies and bringing to Japan 50 tons of green at the moment, which will continue to grow. I expect working with more roasteries, and you have now also the retail outlet and the cafe. Amazing story, but it can't have been all smooth sailing. Can you tell us about maybe what were some of the challenges that you faced, and how did you sort of come to the solution of those? Because I think that sort of thing is really inspiring to other people who are thinking of an entrepreneurial journey.
Oh, definitely. Yes. Sometimes I know that we have ideas, and but from going from the idea to make it happen, we
Mm.
face so many things. And one of the things that I think is important for people who want to do business is to understand that, hey, it's going to be really hard
Yeah.
because new things, especially new things, are really hard for people to
Mm.
accept. And so the other part is also to see the feasibility of that. How can it grow? How
Right. Mm.
can it scale it?
Mm.
And is there a demand? All those things. It's not just because I'm a fan of this. Or, no, it's not just that. So perseverance is very important. I could have quit what I'm doing so many times
Mm.
just to start the very beginning. Uh, Before going to Guatemala and start building this, I remembered I needed to rent a piece of land to develop it at the beginning, and I got a chance suddenly to get this place, but I needed to send money to Guatemala, but I had only about in US dollars, let's say about 1,000 US dollar
Mm. Mm.
in my account. I was doing some other things, but I was expecting that maybe I would be able to sell because I was exporting some other stuff from Japan, and I was hoping that I was going to make some other sell. But then I had to make the decision: what should I do? And I made the big decision to send everything that I had
Wow.
without knowing for a fact that I was going to be able to get more money. But I told myself, hey, I need to do it. I need to see and need to make it happen. And so I sent the money, and I was lucky enough that after I got money, but that was just the beginning. I didn't really know what I was getting into.
Mm. Mm.
Going to Guatemala was another very interesting experience. I was born there, but after many years being in Japan, which, by the way, for some people that um, they were born in a different country but live in Europe or in United States, uh, Japan or in many places in Asia, but in this case we're in Japan, so let's talk about Japan. And what I can see from my experience and also from some relatives is 1 year in Japan is like 3 years maybe in for somebody from Guatemala in United States or in Europe. So it's so different in here.
Wow.
So so yeah. I was a kind of a foreigner back in Guatemala when I went back.
Mm. Mm. I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was treated like that. And I wasn't welcome. Imagine this. Imagine that you're a fourth generation coffee producer, and I come to you. First of all, I'm much younger, and then because of my story, I come from Japan, and I'm going to tell you, hey, I come with this idea to change your life and change the coffee industry by using a bicycle.
I'd
And
say you were crazy.
I'm not gonna make it much easier for you because I'm actually gonna give you so many rules, and there will be so many quality steps for the control that you are going to work a lot more. But this is going to be good for the future. Maybe not for you, but maybe for your children or your
Mm.
grandchildren in the future. It wasn't easy.
Sure. I'm sure most people, as you said before, probably thought you were crazy, or the idea was crazy.
Yeah. But I I got maybe it's not just about luck, but yeah, I got some luck too, but the perseverance and I
Mm.
was I was just so sure about it. I felt it would work, especially when I tasted the first coffee made with that. I and it was amazing coffee. By the way, because we don't use water for the processing, more of the natural honey, so the juice of the cherry stays with the bean.
Ah.
So
Ah.
when you open the bags of those coffees here in Japan, the aroma, the smell is so sweet, fruity.
That
Yeah,
makes sense because if you're not using water, you're not washing away some of those things. Uh,
exactly.
exactly.
Yeah,
Cool.
so most of the people who drink our coffee, they always tell us, "Hey, it's sweet. Your coffee is sweet. It's well balanced." Yeah, and we have so many different types of coffee. So when you come to our shop, you can also have a set that is called the Nomi Kurabe Seto in Japanese.
Mm.
How do you call this? Flights, coffee
Yeah.
flight. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they can taste the different three types of coffee to find out what is specialty coffee and
Mm.
identify what is that they like.
Mm.
I'd love to teach as well. So we
Mm.
have that at the shop. Yeah. So getting back to the difficulties, 2018, 2017, 2018, I couldn't import coffee to Japan because there were so many difficulties. I was not really welcome to just start exporting coffee. It wasn't that easy. Um, until I continue trying to find different ways until I met it and was able to do it. That was there, but in Japan I had to work hard as well by going everywhere. I visited many places all over Japan, and I'm still
Mm.
doing that, going to many places and meeting a lot of people. That's the only way. But now I'm lucky that a lot of media is covering
Mm.
what we are doing. I was on TV yesterday.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, we're a very interesting program about coffee, and they were showing about what we're doing. So a lot of people know us, and so far we are the only company, uh, not only in Japan. I maybe me saying that in the world sounds way too big, but I haven't met anybody so far, and I also travel to different places in Europe as well,
Mm.
and places that is doing something similar what we are doing, like implementing, especially because we are implementing this tool, the bicycles,
Yes.
and it's not we are not one farm doing that. We are now an association of more than 250 farmers in 3 different countries now, and my plan is that after the next country will be maybe Indonesia or Ethiopia, one of those two. So we want to cover these five
So
countries.
moving continents now.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, there's another thing. Imagine now this Guatemalan guy faced that in Guatemala. Going to Colombia, a country that is much bigger,
Yeah.
not only in size but in coffee, and that was another challenge. With
And
Brazil,
and the coffee market, I mean, in Asia, which is predominantly, I guess, a tea market, you're beginning to see, because of rising incomes, for instance, coffee becoming more popular in China and other places. It's a hugely expanding market as well.
oh yes, definitely. Um, maybe many people that will be watching this or reading this don't know about this, but Japan is actually a very important country in the coffee business.
Oh, really?
Yes. Um, Japan buys a lot of specialty coffee, the top
Mm.
coffees,
Mm.
and is kind of the client that all the producers want, not only in Guatemala, but in almost everywhere you go. They look for the top of top coffees, and they pay good for those coffees. So Japan, it's a country where you can find actually a lot of interest from people to enjoy that kind of Japanese culture is not about quantity, but it's about quality.
Quality, yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is also what I brought back to there. And then I told everybody it's okay with the bicycles because it's about the quality
Yeah.
it's not about the quantity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but Japan plays a big role, being even the
Mm.
number two or number three biggest buyer for coffees in many countries.
Yeah. I think I'm not quite sure if this is still right, but at one stage, Coca-Cola's biggest selling product in Japan was coffee in
Oh,
cans, not
mhm.
Coke, but coffee. And to your point, those cans are not sort of American big size me, super size me cans, right? They're relatively small size cans when you compare them with other drinks, but the coffee is very, very high quality and obviously delicious to do. Tell
That's
us,
right.
how important do you think Japan was in your journey? So you ended up in Japan, but say for instance you'd ended up in, I don't know, anywhere, Australia or Germany or another place. Do you think your journey would have been the same with coffee, or is it the fact that you came to Japan and no one knew where Guatemala was? They only thought it was a coffee, and that helped you make that transition from your lemon to lemonade, or do you think you still would have done the same things if you had been in another country?
Ah, you know, I asked or I thought about this many times in my life, especially when going through difficulties, right? I wish I was not just about going to a different place, but born in a different place. And there are so many things, right? But now I think that one of the most amazing things that happened in my life was that I was born in Guatemala,
Mm,
that I came to Japan,
mm,
because that is what made the recipe for what I'm doing now. That
right.
has brought also a lot of meaning to my life. And at this word, really, this word good, it represents so many things, because I also been telling people, hey, let's do good business. There are so many ways to also make money, good ways and not so good.
Mm,
Making good money, making good many things, good friends, good relationships. And this is also something that I understood, probably because of everything I went through, is that people sometimes we get lost in looking for perfection
mm,
or top of
mm,
top things. And actually in life sometimes, or I think most of the time, good is good enough.
mm, mm,
And it's more realistic at the same time. And learning to enjoy that is a good thing. I'm not saying to give up the dreams of reaching for the stars, because personally speaking, I don't know if there is a title in the world for being um the like world peace prize, but like that for sustainability. Because if there is, I wish that someday maybe I could get that. And I'm not saying that because out of greed. It's just as a mission, as a goal for me, that I need to reach to that. And in our website, actually, you will find one expression or kind of a slogan that we have as well, that is for our vision statement, is coffee changing the world.
yeah.
So change the world through coffee, one
Mm,
cup at a time. All together, we can make it happen. So now my goal is to bring this to all over the world,
mm,
and and spread it as much as I can.
mm.
So I don't see now this happening if all those elements in for the recipe didn't exist. So no, I probably no, I wouldn't be doing exactly the same thing. Maybe another thing,
Right.
but the reality is this.
Yeah. So, my takeaways from this conversation, I think there's about four that I would draw from this. So the first one is, if life gives you lemon, you make lemonade. And I think that's a great, great statement. The second one is that the solution can be often very, very simple. It doesn't need to be complicated. Um, and and I think that's true. The third thing is try and think holistically about the ecosystem, because I think that's what you've created. You've created a whole ecosystem that solves issues on multiple fronts with very, very simple applications. I'm not saying they were simple to implement, but certainly when you look back at them and say, wow, it didn't require a huge degree of technology, or it didn't require, this was just, perseverance, as you say, and hard work. And I think the fourth one would be, the name of your company is not perfect coffee farms. It's not perfect coffee. It's not perfect farms. It's good. And as you say, that sometimes, done is better than perfect is the saying, but good is sometimes all you need to aim for. You don't really need to aim for that perfection. So, through our discussion, I think they, for me, are the sort of the four quotes that I would take away from that. Carlos, as we think to the future, you said that if there were a Nobel Prize for sustainability, that you would love to be able to aim for that. But how do you see the next sort of 5 years or 10 years playing out? You've talked about Indonesia or possibly, Africa. But what are your aims and dreams for the next couple of years?
First of all, I'm always looking for people that will love to join
Sure.
this movement, and you will be surprised that people coming from totally different backgrounds could actually fit in this.
Hmm.
There are so many ways that we can contribute to this, because in business we have the person that grows the coffee, but then we need the person who exports, we need the person who sells it, we need somebody who works with websites, development for different, so many other things. Oh, it's huge. So that's building a bigger team with people that want to change their lives as well, and do something more meaningful, be part of this movement. That's the step number one that I'm working hard on right now. So I'm looking for somebody, so not somebody, but for people that will
Right.
feel passionate about this. So welcome to join Good Coffee Farms. That's number one. Number two is, besides trying to cover more countries for the green coffee production and bring it to Japan, we're also looking to expand to export coffee to other countries around the world. And
Right.
we already start doing, we sold some coffee to Korea, Taiwan, and Europe. And the other one is that we are also selling roasted coffee as a wholesale. And we're trying to find people who would love to have coffee shops with our model,
Hmm.
to be in a franchise style. So there are so many ways. And I see some demand in the market, which is connected with the following things. The new generations are more conscious about what they drink, what they wear, what they eat. And the other part is because of the reality of the global warming and
Hmm.
all situation. So it's not just a trend, but it's something that is becoming
Hmm.
like the new norm.
Hmm.
We must do it. So that is also something that makes this what good coffee farmers grow, because a lot more people are trying to get involved, which is I think it's a good thing. What I encourage people is that we need to move faster, much faster, because there is a big problem that everybody is facing. So in the next 5 years, I think that I want to see good coffee farmers not only in Japan but in other countries like in United States and in Europe. Um, and that we have teams in different countries taking care of the local markets. So I'm hoping to reach that. And then the next step is really going global. That's what I'm aiming for, so that we can truly say that this is a good coffee farmers, a coffee that is changing the world.
Exactly. 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 Carlos, this has been a really, really interesting and compelling discussion. And I think the solutions that we created, as I said, it's not just about the inputs, it's also about the outcomes that you're producing for the farmers. And I think that is a really, really important part of this sustainability equation. It's not just about, how we use thank you for your time. It's really and for talking to us about your story. And I wish you all the best luck and for repeated success as you go forward in the family and in this journey. And I will certainly be visiting the cafe in Tokyo soon.
Looking forward to have you at our shop, and for the viewers and the readers as well, please come and enjoy a good cup of coffee.
Thank you.
Thank you.